Tuesday, I am back. And boy, oh boy, I go away for 1 week. Honestly, it was 1 week. And Kamala's team decided that they would just do the absolute most. I mean, I'm all the way in Tokyo getting messages that Kamala is appearing on podcasts, that Kamala has dropped another accent, that Barack Obama is telling black people that they have to vote for her, black men particularly that they have to vote for her, or maybe they're not black. You ain't black. We're doing that again. Absolutely no one will convince me that this was not a direct response to our series. Because among very many other things, let the history books tell the truth. That Kamala Harris lost the black vote because she put greens in the bathtub. And now, with just 21 days left until the election, she's basically forced to do so much press to try to earn it back. And that's why she's recently announced that she's going to go on to the Breakfast Club, Power 105. I will be watching that. I think it's supposed to be at 5 p.m. We're going to talk about that. But first, we are back with a potentially explosive revelation, an utterly bizarre skeleton that might be in Kamala's closet. Totally bizarre if it's true. I want to be very clear. There is nowhere that Kamala Harris can hide from me. There is no accent that she can throw on that is going to throw me off the scent. So let's just get started. Welcome back to Candace. I still just love my intro music. You know why? Because I just love running into Ye in Tokyo. I'm not even kidding. I just ran smack into him in Tokyo. He's doing great, by the way. He looks great. Tokyo is good for him. It's good for him to be out of Los Angeles. More about that maybe later on this week, because there's clearly so much that we need to get updated on, so much that I missed. And I promise that we're going to get to everything that we possibly can this week. I know Kamala was on the Call Her Daddy podcast. That was quite a pick for her. I know that she also went on the Colbert Show, but we only have so much time in this first episode back, so we have to get to some breaking news immediately. I'm not going to bury this lead. Okay, so like I said, I was in Tokyo. I got some downtime. I decided that I was going to just flip through a couple of your emails. You guys are sending me so much information to info@CandaceOwens.com, and I was wondering if there was going to be anything big. And lo and behold, someone sends me a link to an article written. What are the chances of this? It was written by a Japanese guy. I'm in Japan, and now I'm getting sent an article that's written by some Japanese guy who claims that he knows all about Kamala, all about Kamala's family, particularly all about Kamala's mother, who he said was involved in the MK Ultra program. So first and foremost, stop the presses. Some of you guys are new to this podcast. Some of you guys are not new. And you know that when we began this independent endeavor, I basically said that reading the book Chaos was required reading. It was all about the MK Ultra program. It was all about the Charles Manson murders that actually the CIA was involved in. Like Charles Manson, we were supposed to believe he was this big, scary guy who was behind all of these murders in Hollywood, when in reality, the CIA had him as he was a Fed. They turned him while he was in prison. Obviously, we're allowing him to give out all of this LSD to brainwash these women. I mean, just an incredible story that really makes you confront what your government is capable of. And so when I read this guy and he's saying that her mother was a part of the MK Ultra program, that she was essentially experimenting on monkeys, it kind of made things fit for me in a way, just like it passed the sniff test, because I know, and we're not going to get into it in this episode, that the civil rights movement was not a natural movement. It was a movement that was being done by people that had an interest in changing the dynamics in America. Black Americans were essentially just the tools. Obviously, we know that after the civil rights movement, some of the things that were installed were meant to actually destroy the black community. When you get into LBJ, who was horrifically racist. I mean, so much happened in the 60s, shooting of JFK, that we still don't have answers for, but we kind of know who shot JFK and who was behind the shooting of JFK. Anyways, this guy is saying that her mother was a part of that, and that makes sense to me because we know that Shamala Goplin, just don't know if I'm saying her name right, incredibly intelligent scientist, and yet spent so much time at these protests, you know, just intertwining herself in the civil rights movement. Not the average thing that somebody who's like experimenting on baboons is like, okay, get a free weekend, I want to go down to a protest, unless you're being told to sort of infiltrate and make yourself a part of these protests. So I thought, okay, this is plausible, but also Not really relevant, right? Because it's not going to shape the election. You can't exactly blame Kamala for the crimes of her mother. Also, if her mother worked for the government and they told her to experiment on monkeys, okay, what are you going to do? But it was something else that was buried within this article that caught my eye. Okay. Now, before I tell you what that was, the first thing that you're thinking is, Candace, how do you know that this Japanese guy wasn't just some crazy person? That's what my husband said. Fair point. Obviously, you get tons of emails. This could be a total schizophrenic guy who's just putting together a storyline and is writing all crazy. So I said, let me just do a little bit of research into this guy. And there's actually tons of things available about him. And there's actually a video of him speaking about something that has nothing to do with Kamala. So I want to give you guys the opportunity to practice your own discernment. I'm a big believer in believing your own eyes and believing your own ears, right? So I'm going to show you a video of the author of that article. I'm telling you, his name is Yoichi Shimatsu. And here is a video of him. We're just going to show you a clip of him discussing the Japanese Fukushima nuclear disaster. Take a listen.
Well, there's two phenomena that came out of the Fukushima nuclear releases in 2011, when huge amounts of radioactive isotopes were released from, especially from reactor 3, but the 3 reactors that melted down, and the reactor 4 spent fuel pool, which was on fire. The first problem was that the disaster occurred on 3/11 in March, but by April through May of that same year, 2011, a massive ozone hole started to open up over the North Pole. And the timing suggests that it was a catastrophic event caused by some phenomena, which could only have been the Fukushima disaster. What the basis of that is, the scientific basis for this ozone hole would be that every ionizing radioactive isotope, every single one of them, are massive destroyers of ozone.
So what do your eyes and ears tell you about that guy immediately? Not a crazy person, seems highly intelligent. The reason why we do that is because one of the exercises that journalists today take place in is constantly trying to discredit people, calling people crazy, don't pay attention to this person, they're a racist, they're a sexist, they're crazy. You look at this guy, you go, okay, this is a Japanese man, he sounds very intelligent, he's none of those things. It wouldn't make sense for a Japanese guy just to be randomly racist towards an Indian woman. Okay. And I can now tell you a little bit about his background. Shimatsu is about as intelligent and as accomplished as he sounds. He is the former editor of the Japan Times. If you're not familiar with the Japan Times, it is the largest and the oldest English newspaper in Japan. And he received his master's in journalism from Berkeley University. Yes, the old stomping grounds of Kamala's mother and Kamala's father, who he claims to know. He claims to know the mother. He claims to have run the same circles as her. Now, as I was reading his piece, the hatred that he feels for Kamala Harris and her family is palpable. And he offers a reason for that hatred. He claims that it's because he mentored someone named Jeff Adaki, who was involved in San Francisco politics. And indeed he was. Jeff Adaki was mysteriously murdered. This is according to him. You look it up. The story is incredible. He was a lawyer, he was a public defender, and he was also a San Francisco mayoral candidate who died in some unbelievably suspicious circumstances after having made enemies with the San Francisco political establishment. The establishment was after him, making statements against him. He was coming after their pensions. He had amassed a lot of power. People liked him. And one such person, by the way, who was opposed to him and ran a candidate against him was Willie Brown. Yeah, Willie Brown, the one that Kamala, the married man that Kamala had an affair with, that gave her her political comeuppance. And so, yeah, you look into that Jeff Adaki story about how he died, how days before he died, he was saying that the medical examiner was corrupt. And then that medical examiner was the same one who conducted an autopsy on his dead body. And then that autopsy result was reversed. I mean, it is as shady as it gets, just a true California, San Francisco scandal. So this author was the mentor to this man, and he still believes that he was murdered. And I will let you guys decide. We're going to park that aside for a moment because Shimatsu makes another stunning claim right at the top of his piece that caught my attention. I'm going to read it to you verbatim. This is what he wrote in the essay. He wrote, about a decade ago, I was scanning the society page with a photo of Kamala Harris's marriage to a wealthy Canadian British businessman. My personal dislike of her, since my sojourn in San Francisco, followed by the mysterious murder of Jeff Adaki, I was something of his mentor to the evil brew of San Francisco Democrat politics, made me want to vomit on seeing her overjoyed smile, arm in arm with a British subject, conferring on her 2 added citizenships, Brit and Canadian, atop of her American passport and maybe even Indian residency papers. She's a worldly woman indeed, and in action. Like so much of her personal record, her marriage to the Canuck has since been scrubbed from the record as if it never happened. That's very convenient for her, run for the presidency, which disallows foreign citizens to hold the highest position in American governance. Oh, yes, did I ever mention that Kamala's a cheater in more ways than one? Okay, so I'm looking at this guy. He seems to have a pretty good memory. He definitely has a record, which I would say makes him a legitimate person. Like I said, as an editor to the Japan Times, this is not some kooky, crazy person. Now we know that he did, in fact, run the same circles as her, the same circles as potentially her mother. And he is recalling with tremendous detail a photo of her having married some Canadian British guy that he says has since been scrubbed from the internet. My instinct just right away went, I think this man is telling the truth. He has, you can tell, like I said, contempt for her. He can tell as you read his piece that he believes that she is involved, and just like her mother was, in the higher echelons of the government, involved with the feds who are able to sort of disappear these sorts of things. My instinct just says, Candace, you should look into this. Because, by the way, just even the backstory, the idea that this woman never got married at all until she met Doug Emhoff, who swept her off her feet in 2014 when she was 49 or 50 years old, questionable. But of course, then you go, why would she hide her marriage? Like, no one really cares if you're previously married anymore. Nobody really holds, people who are not Christians, I would say, don't really hold the sacrament of marriage. It's not important. People get divorced all the time. Why hide this? Why hide a marriage? There would have to be something very big about her spouse that she wouldn't want us to know. Maybe who he is, maybe like he suggests, it's because he's not a citizen, or there's something about her citizenship that's a question mark. Like I said, I don't know, but I'm curious. It has my attention. So I decided to actually run her name and see if there was ever, or maybe there's more than one previous marriage. Who knows? I actually never even thought to take this angle, and I decided to look into it to see if I could find any hits on a marriage between Kamala and somebody else. And I did come across something very interesting. Now, I want you to take this with a grain of salt. There could, of course, be another Kamala Devi Harris who resided in California. But we did come across a Kamala Devi Harris who applied for a marriage certificate on April 29th of 1984. So our Kamala would have been 20 years old. I'm going to show you that document. You'll notice that it is blurred. It's intentionally blurred because you have to purchase it, which we have. So you guys don't have to go out and do that. Essentially, you have to purchase it and then they deliver it electronically within 24 hours. We did that this morning because it was closed yesterday. What it shows us is a marriage between a Kamala D. Harris and a Philip J. Henderson, which took place in Reno, Nevada. What we know from this document thus far is that the Kamala that is listed, Kamala D. Harris, was a resident of California, and that her husband's residence is listed as in Michigan. That is literally all we know, okay? Like I said, there could be a circumstance where there just is another Kamala D. Harris who was living in California and got married. And so what I'm going to do at this point, as we await more information, is to just offer it up to the public. What I want you to do, again, you don't need to purchase this document, but somebody out there knows something. Somebody saved a newspaper clipping. I know grandmas be cutting out newspaper clippings, putting it on. Nobody knows why they're constantly cutting out newspaper clippings and saving it and tacking it along. Somebody will recall exactly what it is that Yoichi is saying he recalls, that she was married to a Canadian. Maybe somebody still has that newspaper clipping. More details. Again, maybe there was a marriage that took place in Canada and you guys are able to go through the documents in Canada to see that if you can find something, you can just check wherever it is that you live. Like I said, this has caught my interest. I believe there is something there. Like I said, Kamala D. Harris is not the most popular name in the entire world. And I also found something very strange that when I was looking this up, somebody had intentionally tried to confuse matters, that Kamala D. Harris with a Kamela, which is spelled with an E, Kamela, Harris, who was living and is still alive, lived her entire life in Washington. They intentionally tried to blend the records to confuse it. I thought that was very strange. Like I said, we know nothing yet. We are asking for the public. If you know anything, remember anything, recall anything, if you are Canadian and you recall something, if you're American and you know something or saw something or remember the same thing he remembers, message us, send us an email rather at info@CandiceOwens.com. In the meantime, we have reached out. We were able to get his email. We have reached out to Yoichi Shimatsu, and we are hopeful that we will hear more. We'll take a brief pause here to remind you guys about Good Ranchers. You know that we absolutely love them here on the show. You guys do not have to wait for Election Day to make your voice count. You can do it every day through the choices that you make. And when you choose to buy your meat from goodranchers.com, you are choosing to support local farms in the USA, and you're standing up for transparency and safety in our food supply. Good Ranchers partners exclusively with American farms to provide you with pasture-raised beef, chicken, pork, and wild-caught seafood that you can trust, so you can support local ranchers and ensure that you receive high-quality American-raised meat with no antibiotics and no added hormones. Right now, Good Ranchers is running their presidential promo. For a limited time, you can get a free add-on for 4 years until the next presidential election. That means you subscribe to any of their boxes and you'll get to decide if you want free chicken breast, Angus ground beef, Applewood smoked bacon, or wild-caught salmon in every order for 4 years. So do not miss out. Use my code Candice at goodranchers.com to claim this presidential promo worth up to $1,200 and bring 100% American meat to your family meals through 2028. That's promo code Candice at goodranchers.com. All right, guys, let's get into some stories. So Barack Obama is back making the rounds. Okay. He says that Black men should be voting for Kamala Harris. And I just think that I have a lot to say about this. I think that it's time. It is time, Black America. It is time for us to revisit Barack Obama in general. And I know, okay, it's a sensitive subject. I know this is one of those things where me, the messenger, is definitely going to get shot because none of us were awake back in 2008. So when people were pointing out some oddities about Barack Obama, right, everyone was quick to go, oh, that's because of racism. That's come on, this is absolutely happening because you just don't like him because he's Black. And I count myself among them. I have to always remind you guys, I was a liberal or left-leaning. I never actually voted for Democrats, but I too thought that anybody that was saying anything about him was racially motivated. I cried the night that Barack Obama won. But I want to be clear. I've grown up since. I've got 3 kids now. I'm married. I'm seeing the world through a different way. I realize what the media is, and I realize how they really do think that Black people are stupid. And in the retrospect, there were definitely some very weird things about Barack Obama. For example, and this is just a fact, back in 1991, when Barack Obama was completely unknown to the public, he was working with a literary agency that was named Acton and Distal, okay? They were tasked with promoting his first book, which was a book that was meant to be entitled Journeys in Black and White, which actually never wound up being published. But in anticipation of his book being published, they were promoting Barack Obama and other authors that were on their roster. And they promoted them in a booklet, which they distributed to people in the publishing industry, like, hey, here are our authors that we want you to publish. And in the booklet, they included a biography of all of their clients. And this is the biography that they included of Barack Obama. Okay, take a look here. It says, this is real, 100% real. Barack Obama, the first African-American president of the Harvard Law Review, was born in Kenya and raised in Indonesia and Hawaii. The son of an American anthropologist and a Kenyan finance minister, he attended Columbia University and worked as a financial journalist and editor for Business International Corporation. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so the whole concept of, like I said, that's 100% legit. The whole concept of whether or not he was born in Kenya was not coming out of racist ideas, right? It wasn't because people were just trying to delegitimize him. It was because he had a literary agent, and that literary agent published a pamphlet, and that pamphlet said that he was born in Kenya. And then suddenly that changed, and they were like, no, never mind. He was born in the USA. That person who published this never gave an answer for why they wrote that. They tried to say like, oh, like that maybe the literary agency just wrote that. Why would anybody just write that you're born in Kenya? It's like a weird thing to write. Okay, doesn't matter in the scheme of things. He was already president for 8 years, but it's good to go back on that. And then, of course, there was this other odd thing that happened. Like, he did, by the way, grow up in Indonesia. That's a fact, right? He, like, at the first 8 years of his life were spent in Indonesia. His mother moved him to Indonesia, and he went by a totally different name. He went by the name Barry Soetoro. Here's an old clip of journalist Matt Meager from Inside Edition revealing that truth. Just so you know, these were not conspiracies. Okay, take a listen.
As Senator Barack Obama has made his run for president, some have questioned his background, particularly the 4 years he spent as a child in Indonesia. He was educated in 2 schools, first a Catholic school and then later a public school. Matt Mahar traveled to Indonesia to take you to both of the schools the candidate attended.
This is the Assisi Catholic Grammar School in Jakarta, Indonesia. And Barack Obama is on his way to becoming its most famous former student.
Barack Obama.
The only record of Obama having attended the school is this old register. And look, it lists his name as Barry Soetoro. That's the name Obama took from his Indonesian stepfather, Lolo Soetoro.
Okay. So whatever you make of this, what we know is that Barack Obama was, first and foremost, right after she gave birth, his white mother is the person that raised him, okay? Her name is Stanley Dunham. There she is, right there. That is Stanley Dunham. Okay, he never lied about this. He did not grow up in a household with his Kenyan father at all, Barack Obama Sr., whatever. He was raised by his mother, Stanley Dunham, and then she married a person who worked for the Indonesian government as a geographer. She married Lolo Soetoro, and Barry Soetoro was born. You know, he then moved to Indonesia. He went to school in Indonesia, and then he gets sent back to Hawaii at the age of 10. So for the first 10 years of his life, I'm just going, okay, like he was not exposed to Black people at all. He was exposed to Indonesians, and then he gets sent to Hawaii to get raised by his exceedingly white grandparents. Here's a picture of his grandparents. That's Madeline Dunham and Stanley Dunham, the person whose mother has the name of her father. So then, yeah, he is in Hawaii as well. And in case you didn't know this, he was extraordinarily wealthy. You probably could figure that out by all of us moving around. That's why while he was in Hawaii, he was enrolled in a private school. He attended the Punahou School, where tuition is for grades K through 12. Tuition is $31,000 per year. That's today, so you can account for inflation, okay? But that's where his grandparents enrolled him, okay? So it's important to note also that in 1970, when Barry Obama got to Hawaii, there were only 5,925 Black people in all of Hawaii. In case you didn't know this, he was extraordinarily wealthy. You probably could figure that out by all of us moving around. That's why while he was in Hawaii, he was enrolled in a private school. He attended the Punahou School, where tuition is for grades K through 12. Tuition is $31,000 per year. That's today, so you can account for inflation, okay? But that's where his grandparents enrolled him, okay? So it's important to note also that in 1970, when Barry Obama got to Hawaii, there were only 5,925 Black people in all of Hawaii. Okay. And it's worth noting that 80% of those, north of 80% of those 5,000 Black people were in the military. He was not exposed to Black people at all, is what I'm trying to make the point. Okay. He had literally not a single part of his upbringing was he around Black people. There were no students, no Black students at his very expensive private school. Okay, there's no Black people in Indonesia. And really, for those of you that haven't been to Hawaii, it's still like, it has nothing to do with America. It feels like we just took Hawaii and we're like, yeah, you're America. When you go out there, you're like, okay, this is like its own thing entirely. They look more Asian than anything else. And they're kind of a little pissed off that we took them, if we're being completely honest about Hawaii now. So he went there. His mother went to a school that the same one that his dad went to in Hawaii, the same one that his stepdad went into Hawaii. Really kind of feels like he was a part of some weird military program. And then after that, after going to his $31,000 per year private school in Hawaii, he goes to Occidental College in Occidental University or college, whatever it is, in California for 2 years, where he roomed with a white guy for the first year, white guy with blonde hair. He's written about it for his freshman year, and then moved to live off campus in his sophomore year with a Pakistani for 1 year. His dorm mates have described him as doing a mean Mick Jagger impression. Literally, I know I've heard the name Mick Jagger, but I had no idea that he was the lead singer of the Rolling Stones until today. I was today years old when I learned that. I'm just saying, I understand, like, people grew up in a household, they listen to rock and roll. I didn't grow up in that household. MJ was not Mick Jagger for us. It was Michael Jackson. The whole reason we're doing this series is because somebody came for the Jacksons. That's the kind of household I grew up in. So then Barry Obama met and dated a woman in his sophomore year. Her name was Alexandra McNear. You might remember she's the one that released the letters that Barry wrote to her where he talked about his homosexual feelings. Like he says, like he makes loves to men in his mind. And so he had like homosexual inklings. He then went to Columbia University and still dated Alexandra McNear and was writing her these letters at that time. Anyways, I'm just thinking, like, what part of Barack Obama's life gave him the authority to tell black men how to act black in America? That's what I'm asking you. What part of his life? Was it Hawaii? Was it Indonesia? Was it Alexandra McNear? At what point did suddenly, like, Barry Soetoro become the person who gets to tell black men how to act in America? Because that's exactly what he's doing now. That's exactly what he has been doing. Is just because, like, once you do a photo op with Jay-Z or Diddy, suddenly, like, you're just, like, handed an award and gone, okay, now you're black. Now everybody in the black community has to listen to you. Because that's what it seems like. His history and his background is equally as shady as Kamala Harris's, if we are being frank. And they're bringing him out to essentially whip black Americans into shape because, oh, they gave him the black card. So now black people better just listen to Barack Obama. So here he is suddenly lamenting the fact that black men just aren't energetic enough for Kamala Harris. Take a listen.
Is that we have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running. Now, I also want to say that that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers.
The brothers.
So if you don't mind, just for a second, I'm going to speak to y'all right and say that when you have a choice that is this clear, when on the one hand you have somebody who grew up like you, knows you, went to college with you, understands the struggles and pain and joy that comes from those experiences. He's had to work harder and do more and overcome and achieves the second highest office in the land.
I'm sorry, Barry Soetoro, but you are going to have to sit your ass down. I got to tell him right now. That's what Barry has to sit his ass down. This is like, she understands the struggle no more than you understand the struggle. Both of you, okay? How does this work? Again, Barack Obama was raised by three extraordinarily wealthy white adults. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that he is not genetically black. He has been honest with the fact that he didn't know his dad, okay? His dad died, I think, when he was in college at some point. He never was raised by him, was never raised around black people ever. That's fine. But why are you speaking to the brothers? Like, when did it become the brothers? What is this? How do three white people raise a strong black brother? I want to know. Is it like grandma and granddad Dunham raised him to be a strong black man, just like Kamala's Indian mother raised her to be a strong Indian woman or something? Like what's actually happening right now? This is so insulting. And I am the most insulted by this, by the way, because I have dealt with years, the black community telling me that I'm not black because I voted for Trump. Like, you're not black because you're a Republican. Why? Because I see through this stupid BS, this dumb game of thinking you can whip black Americans with some hip hop music, with a Megan Thee Stallion twerking on stage, with Jay-Z and Beyonce marching at a BLM protest, and suddenly King, Queen, LeBron James sending out a tweet. Like, that's literally supposed to motivate me to vote, because I can see through the BS. I look up these people's background. I'm going, what about you is culturally black? Barack Obama is not culturally black. I'm sorry. It's time for us to accept that. Like I said, I was moved by him too in 2008. I thought, oh, okay. Like, I really didn't understand his background, and I questioned people who questioned him. But we have to just come to terms with the fact that we have been being played by Democrats for a very long time. And the reality is he is just as shady in terms of his background as Kamala Harris. I am a firm believer that they are breeding politicians. His background is almost too similar to Kamala Harris's in terms of literally no relation to the black community, having so much wealth, and then as if they went through a school of what it is exactly that they should say to relate to the brothers. To relate to the brothers, to relate to the sisters. Oh, a little bit of Cardi B. I can't, okay? I'm sorry. I'm done with this. And I am actually very happy that black men seem to be taking a larger leap away from this. I hope that black women will follow suit and recognize this, to see how ridiculous it is that a woman who is saying she's washing greens in a bathtub and a guy who's suddenly calling black people brothers, despite having literally no introduction to what it means to be culturally a black person in America. I hope that we all can become awakened. But I'm very grateful that black men seem to be holding the line. Like, I am with that 100%. All right, guys, brief break here to remind you about American financing, because today's economic environment is stressful for a lot of people. But with the Fed finally dropping interest rates, there is no better time than now to put you and your family in a better financial position. American Financing is helping thousands of families who have been putting everyday expenses on credit cards get out from underneath that debt by tapping into their home's equity. They're saving their borrowers over an average of $800 a month. $800 a month is like a $10,000 raise at work, and it costs absolutely nothing to find out how much you can save. They're closing some in as little as 10 days, and if you start today, you may not have to make next month's mortgage payment. There is no better time than now to turn your situation around, so call today. The number is 800-795-1210. Again, that's 800-795-1210, or you can visit americanfinancing.net/Owens. That's americanfinancing.net/Owens. All right, guys. So as she goes on this Black apology tour, as Black America is going, wait a second, what is this? Why does this not feel like she is the person that she says that she is? Of course, it means that she must do the honorary stop to Power 105's Breakfast Club. Now, in case you're not familiar with this, the Breakfast Club has always been a mandatory stop for politicians to appeal to Black people, particularly Democrat politicians. I don't think they often have Republicans on. They did have Vivek Ramaswamy on, actually, but I don't remember them ever having Trump on. Anyways, you go by, and it just seems to be the case that Democrats just do the most when they get on here. This is the notorious stop when Hillary Clinton, at the height of the election cycle, said she had hot sauce in her bag because that was a part of Beyonce's song. I got hot sauce in my bag, swag. So when they asked her, what is something you keep in your purse? She said hot sauce. Because Black people can relate, the brothers and the sisters in the struggle can relate to hot sauce and that, like, whatever. She said that it was abhorrent, and they kind of turned it into a joke, but it was not funny to me. And this is why she is now going to do the stop, because she has completely fumbled the bag. Kamala has just completely fumbled the bag by putting the greens in the bathtub. And Black America's not okay with it. They're not okay with it. It's very nasty. It's dirty. It's grimy. You just don't do that. You don't put your food where the skin is falling off of your body. Okay. So somebody reminded me that she had already been on Power 105 back in 2019 when she was running for president. And I cannot believe that I forgot to mention that interview, because it's actually quite significant to all of our research. It's the only time, remember, her father is notoriously private and he rarely speaks out, but it is the only time that he spoke out regarding her campaign, and he was angry and he spoke out against her after she said this. Take a listen.
So, and I know the answer to this too. They say you oppose legalizing weed. That's not true.
I know.
And look, I joke about it, half joking. Half my family's from Jamaica. Are you kidding me?
They be so mad at you.
Right. Yeah. No, I do not. No.
So she was leaning into a Rastafarian stereotype. My family is from Jamaica, smoking pot, dreadlocks, and they're all laughing like, oh yeah, that's how it is. And her dad had a visceral reaction to this. Like Donald Harris was like, what the heck is this? He immediately issued an unsolicited public statement to Jamaican Global Online. Jamaican Global Online is also the same publication, online publication, that he published his piece in just a few months earlier. So he basically did a 180 and was like, no, what is this? He issued this statement. He wrote, my dear departed grandmothers, whose extraordinary legacy I described in a recent essay on this website, as well as my deceased parents, must be turning in their grave right now to see their family's name, reputation, and proud Jamaican identity being connected in any way, jokingly or not, with the fraudulent stereotype of a pot-smoking joy seeker and in pursuit of identity politics. Speaking for myself and my immediate Jamaican family, we wish to categorically dissociate ourselves from this travesty. That was a major clue that what we had uncovered about her alleged grandmother, Christiana Brown, and I don't believe Christiana Brown is that picture that we saw is actually who Christiana Brown is. But remember, before I went away, I was telling you guys that they were massive supporters of a politician named Alexander Bustamante who called for the genocide of Rastafarians, okay? So if you wanted to genocide Rastafarians and then suddenly you see that she's leaning into a stereotype of Rastafarians, you would react in the way that he did. Okay, he reacted in the way that his grandmother raised him to. But I sense the connection is even stronger than he's letting on. You know, we've spoken about that, and we're going to dive back into Donald Harris and me sensing that the people who we have been given pictures of are not, in fact, her grandparents, but are actually the help, and they've kind of replaced the pictures. I still believe that, and I think we have more evidence to prove that. Anyways, going back to Kamala, that's going to be at 5 p.m. Eastern today when she will join Power 105.1 to make a pitch to black men, because it seems that they have completely lost black men. And by the way, she's already making a pitch on Twitter. She wrote this: black men deserve a president who cares about making their lives better. And then she offers some things, but I want to just go down to number 5 because it's amazing. This is what she's offering. This is what's going to make black lives better. Number 5 says, legalize recreational marijuana and create opportunities for black Americans to succeed in this new industry. Yeah, you guys like pot. I smoke pot. Yeah, I'm Jamaican. I smoke pot. And like, I'm going to legalize pot and you guys can get involved in the pot industry. That's what you guys are into. I mean, it just makes me cringe. Charlemagne the God, absolutely must ask her to clearly spell out who in her family is black. It's so easy. It's like everyone wants to avoid it now. They just are kind of trying to sweep it under the rug. Like she throws up photos of her grandparents. He needs to specifically ask her about Beryl. Be like, is this your grandma? In your book, this is a photo. This is Iris Finnegan. Are you saying this woman that you are showing us a photo of was your grandmother and you were close with her? Yes, no, circle yes, no, maybe, I don't know. And I'm going to text him actually, because I actually have his number because I was on Power 105 about maybe a couple of months ago. I'm going to ask him to also point blank ask her whether or not she was married, because I want to see what she says. If she says no and we uncover the fact that she was, then this woman is a deranged psychopathic liar. And I do believe she is, by the way. I don't think she has a personality. I think she's like some weird candidate like that was just created and manufactured like all the rest of them. There was nothing authentic about her, not from her laugh, not from the various accents she throws on. It's like she's not good at pretending. Barack Obama was good at pretending. You got to give him credit for that. He was very good at pretending. So much so that we didn't even look into his background. I mean, if I was more politically aware, I would have been on him too. But she's not so good at this sales pitch. People are not falling for it, least of all me. All right, guys, before we get into your comments, I want to remind you about Pure Talk, because you know that these big wireless carriers want to limit you on your choices when it comes to a data plan, basically forcing you to buy a ridiculously expensive unlimited plan when you don't need it. In today's economy, now is the perfect time to stop overpaying for data that you will never use. If you want to choose how much data you actually want, you have to make the switch to my cell phone provider, which is Pure Talk. For just $25 a month, you'll get unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data plus a mobile hotspot. So stop overpaying for wireless and get America's best 5G coverage with Pure Talk. Switching is very easy. There's no contract, no activation fee, and you can even keep your phone and your phone number. Right now, my viewers will save an additional 50% off your first month. Just go to puretalk.com/Owens. Again, that's puretalk.com/Owens. Also remind you guys, if you are enjoying this series, don't forget to hit subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're very close. We're on the race to 3 million subscribers. You can also head to clubcandace.com to support the show, locals.com to support the series in any capacity that you can, because as you see, we are completely demonetized on YouTube because they want me to shut up, but I'm really bad at shutting up. I suck at shutting up. That's like probably my worst trait. I just don't know how to keep my mouth shut. And, you know, I need to know the answers. Like, I just am staying on this because something's not right. And I'm just trusting my gut here that we are being lied to in a very big, scary way. I really do believe that this woman is a communist plant, and that she is basically she has been positioned for this job. They essentially are handing this over to her, and great harm will come from this. And so we are going to stay on this. We have 21 days to figure out what it is that Kamala is hiding. I'm again reminding you, if you are Canadian, you know something, you remember something about a British Canadian guy and her being married, you can email info@CandaceOwens.com. People ask your relatives, somebody out there knows something, or maybe you are the Kamala D. Harris who married Philip J. Henderson, and you can say, oh, that one you can ignore, Candace. We could potentially debunk that one. The information, this has really been a collaborative process. We are going through the emails, and I know that someone out there, like I said, knows something. Okay, now is a time when we switch to Rumble and say goodbye to YouTube as I answer all of your comments. This has been so much fun. And so for YouTube, we're going to say bye-bye and meet us over on Rumble. All right, let's get ready to rumble. What do we have? MF Cartagena writes, Cartagena, go Candace.